Now that we've launched our Google App campaign, it's now time to start looking at our performance, looking at our data, and being able to understand what's happening with our tracking and attribution. Let's begin. There's two facts you need to understand about data specifically. First thing is data is always biased. You can show a piece of data to 5 different people and they'll be able to gather their own insights from it. Everyone has their own bias. And there's loads of different biases. This is not the video to explain all the different ones, but a prime example of one, just for the sake of explaining the point, is what we may call a confirmation bias, which is whatever you believe to be true is what you're going to start seeing. You're going to start seeing patterns that prove your initial belief, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. The second fact is data is never 100% accurate. And again, this is a common theme that I talk about a lot. You're going to have to preferably have multiple sources of truth. You're going to want people to have their own insights and balance the qualitative and quantitative aspects of data that you see. And data analysis in itself is a very complicated topic. Whenever you work within digital marketing, you're always going to have 2 to 3 different sources of truth. Usually it's a minimum of 2. So the first source of truth you'll have is your internal database. That could be your CRM. That could be a database where all your data goes to, like a database server. And within that, you'll be able to see a lot of different parameters depending on the type of data parameters you want to acquire. It could be, the obvious ones would be a user's first name, last name, email address, their phone number, their address potentially. And you can even track UTM parameters. You can also see parameters such as a UTM, which stands for an urchin tracking module. Basically, whenever you're in web analytics, you're able to see where is that particular traffic or conversion coming from, what's the default channel grouping, what's the medium, what's the source. The second source of truth that you'll have, especially in the world of app marketing, is your third-party analytics software. In this case, it's very likely going to be a mobile measurement partner, whether that's AppsFlyer, Adjust. And the third and final source of truth that you'll probably have, or preferably have, is your platform or software data. So in this case, you'll get data directly from the platform that you're using. And in this case, we're talking about Google App Campaigns. So visualize that real quick. You have your internal database, you have your mobile measurement partner or third-party analytics, and then finally, you have the actual channel or software platform's data. Now let's see an overview of Google App Campaigns and the various metrics and dimensions that we can see. So whenever you're in your Google Ads dashboard, very likely at an overview level, you'll see what I'm seeing on the screen right now, which is fairly useless. You can see top-line metrics, but it's quite limited in a sense where it doesn't really, there's not really a lot of leverage in terms of customizing what you want to see, right? It's quite limited. If you go to an ad group, or campaign level. Once you go to a campaign level, what you'll likely see is very similar to what I'm seeing on the screen again. But you can see, although you can see the various metrics, these might not be the metrics that you want to see. Maybe you don't care about optimization score. Maybe you don't care about seeing the bid strategy. You're analyzing data, you want to see data that you want to question, right? You want to have the type of data that answers your questions, basically. So we're going to come to a point where we need to be able to approach the data that we see within Google Ads with a question in mind already. So what are standard metrics and dimensions we can see within Google App Campaigns, or standard KPIs, key performance indicators? We'll breeze through this fairly quickly. The first one is cost. So this is very obvious. This is how much your campaign has spent. Installs, these are app installs specifically. Custom conversions, which we'll talk about in a couple of seconds. These are conversions that you pushed out from your mobile measurement partner onto Google Ads. So it doesn't necessarily mean just an app install. It could be a specific event within your app. It might be a specific user journey or landing page you want to track within your website, for example. Impressions. So impressions is basically when someone sees your ad within mobile, tablet, or desktop. So when they see an aspect of your ad, in this case, if it's a Google App Campaign, they see the creative itself. That once a user sees, that will count as one impression, or one ad impression. Clicks, pretty self-explanatory. Someone clicks on the app. Within the Apple App Store or Apple Search Ads ecosystem, they call it taps. So when someone taps on an ad rather than a click, but a click and a tap is essentially the same thing. Click-through rates, CTR, that's basically the amount of clicks you've had divided by your ad impressions as a percentage. There's no baseline or average metric you should try and strive for. If you're doing above a 1.5% click-through rate, you're doing well. You're doing better than most. Right, next up, conversion rate. So again, when we talk about conversion rate, it's really dependent on the conversion that we're trying to understand the conversion rate from. For the sake of this video, we'll keep it as app install. So when we talk about conversion rate, that's the amount of traffic that you received or clicks divided by the amount of app installs as a percentage. So when we talk about a click-through rate and a conversion rate, those are two different parts of the user journey. Obviously, you're going to see your click-through rates a lot higher than your conversion rate. So don't feel like that's a red flag if you start to see that there's a bit of a discrepancy. There's always going to be a discrepancy. Customer acquisition cost, also known as CAC or CAC, CPA, cost per acquisition, CPCV, cost per conversion. In this case, we'll keep it simple. A lot of people use customer acquisition cost. That's basically how much you pay for a specific conversion. So in this case, how much you're paying for every install. Another term for it, which I've missed out here, is a CPI, which stands for cost per install. Next is cost per click, or CPC. This is how much you spend per user clicking on the actual ad. And then the next one is return on ad spend, or return on investment, or ROAS, ROAS. To get this metric, you divide your revenue or amount value by how much you've spent, and whatever the number is, that's going to be your return on ad spend. Average order value or average user value, return on ad spend and average order value only really relates to if you're an e-commerce app or you're an app that monetizes, right? If there's a conversion where there's a purchase value attached to that conversion, these metrics are important for you to track. But going back to average order value or AOV, so to get this number, it's fairly simple. It's your conversion value or purchase value divided by how many conversions you have, in this case, how many purchases you have, and you'll get your average order value. So now we're back to Google Ads. Let's actually start creating custom columns. So once you're in your overview section, just click on the left-hand side, click on campaigns under campaigns, and it's very likely you'll see the exact campaign that you're trying to analyze in this case. All these metrics here are pretty useful. Some of them aren't. Like optimization score, it doesn't even show up a number. So why do I need to see that? So in this case, we're going to start to create custom columns. The way you do that is you click on columns here. I'm going to just create a custom one here. So basically what you want to do is click columns, modify columns, and just for the sake of keeping it simple, what we'll do is cancel out every single metric here so we can start from scratch. With this segment, there's quite a lot of metrics that you can choose upon, right? It starts to get overwhelming. So just for the sake of keeping it consistent, I'll basically replicate the metrics that I presented in the past couple of slides. So the first one is cost. So all you have to do is tick cost. The next one is installs. So in this case, we'll click on installs. And this is assuming, again, you've already pushed out data from your mobile measurement partner to your Google Ads account. Cost, installs, custom conversion. So the way you do that, if your custom conversion isn't showing up here, which it likely won't, all you need to do is go to custom columns, click on custom column, and let's say the event is app purchase, right? So someone purchases the app. Name the custom column appropriately, and then just type conversion here. Click all conversions, click on it. Where it says conversion action, this is where you're going to see all of your Google Ads events that have been pushed out either from your website, your app, your MMP, or your web analytics platform like GA4. So you can see a bunch of conversions here. And let's just assume this is the conversion that we want to, the custom conversion you want to be able to track. So you tick that, click on save, and it's already ticked for us. So you can see, so that's added there already. Okay, this is interesting that Google's added a couple of KPIs back again. So let's just redo this again. Not sure why it's done that. All right, so we got cost, conversions, installs, and app purchase. Install app. All right, so we've got cost, installs, and app purchase. Let's add in impressions. And the reason why that we want to add impressions is because we want to understand if there's enough volume there, people seeing the ad, if there's enough spend behind it. So if you can't find it, usually you can type it, although Google usually has a bug with this where, as you can see, nothing shows up. So we're going to have to look for impressions, which is called R for some reason, but that stands for impressions. Next would be clicks. Got impressions and clicks. That's good. And then click-through rate, which they have. So conversion rate, again, since technically we're tracking two different conversions, an app install and an app purchase. The question is, do you want to create a conversion rate column for which conversions? In this case, we'll keep it simple. We want a conversion rate for the app install. So we're not going to choose this conversion rate column that Google recommends. We're going to create this manually again. So the way you do that is create Go back to custom columns. We're just going to call this CVR, and let's name this appropriately so we don't get confused later down the line. This is a conversion rate for an app install. So again, we type conversions, all conversions, click on it. Conversion action should be an install app stores. All right, so what we do is we type conversions, click on all conversions, go to conversion action. Again, remember in the past video where I mentioned that an app download is different from an app install. So when someone downloads an app, it doesn't mean that they've installed the app. They have to actually click on the app and see that first screen, and that becomes an actual app install from that point on. So in this case, the data that we're looking for this example is, there's two actually. So there's Android first open, which is when someone's actually first opened the app, which is an app install, remember? And then we should be looking for an iOS first open as well. Got that as well. So we've just stacked that on top. So it's basically tracking two conversions, right? So it's going to add both iOS and Android first opens. And then now, because this is a custom metric at this point, we're going to divide all those conversions by the amount of clicks that the ad or campaign gets. And we want this formatted here as a percentage. Let's save that. And there's Google doing that. ETR. So the next conversion we want to be able to create is a customer acquisition or customer acquisition cost. So in this case, same exact concept. So what we're going to do here is go to custom column, CAC, and again, we're going to be choosing an app install. Understand how much we're spending per install, basically. We can also call it CPI, right? It's probably more appropriate, cost per install. Again, we type all conversions, click on that, go to your conversion action, click your MMP event that states that it's a first time open for both. Go to your MMP conversion that states that it's a first time open for Android and iOS. Tick both those conversions, and we're going to divide that by the amount of clicks that we received, and we'll change it. We want the format to be, we want the KPI to be a percentage sign. So let's save that. Okay, so for some reason, Google keeps adding these standard metrics like bids. They're not metrics, they're dimensions. Google keeps adding it back. I guess that's a bug. So let's just ignore that for now. I'm not going to keep removing them. So return ad spend average order value, we ignore that for now, but you get the concept. That will have to be a custom column that you create. Now that you've added the metrics that you want to track or the KPIs you want to track, you want to make sure that you want to save your column as a set. All right, so we're going to name this, let's call it weekly reporting. Right, and then save and apply. So now what I'm going to actually do is edit this custom column because there's a couple of columns here that I don't really want. So let's remove campaign type. Let's remove conversions, optimization score, bid strategy. Let's remove all of these aspects, cost per conversion, in-app actions. Save and apply, replaced. And there you go. So these are all the metrics that you probably care about. You can obviously reposition this if you want your cost to be at the very end or you want your conversion rate to be at the beginning. You just go back to your column set, click on the pencil icon and just drag the metrics up and down. And that's how you create a custom column set. Thank you for watching the video. Till next time. Peace.